My name's Brandy Jansen. I get the pleasure of introducing our next couple of speakers this afternoon. The Grow Your Food to Know Your Food movement has caused a surge in home gardening and local food systems, driven by desires for freshness, health, sustainability, and self-sufficiency, and emphasizing that cultivating your own produce connects you directly to its quality, ingredients, and origin, making food a hands-on educational experience. This movement links to the broader local food and sustainable food movements, focusing on reducing food miles, supporting local economies, and understanding the holistic food system. And our next speaker, Lisa Hinzman Howard, aka the Midwest Garden Gal, inspires all gardeners to grow smarter, harvest longer, and enjoy accessible, affordable gardening. She encourages us to embrace the global movement to grow your own food, to know your food. She's a fellow master gardener, an author, blogger, speaker, consultant, and podcast guest. And if you go back to the table, she does have a book for sale today. Lisa reminds us that growing our own food offers benefits like healthier eating through fresh chemical-free produce, financial savings on groceries, reduced environmental impact, improved mental and physical well-being from outdoor activity, and greater food security. If you, like me, are feeling like for your mental health you need to go dig in the dirt, this is the time of year we're feeling it, yes. The activity provides nutrient-dense food, cuts food miles, reduces waste, and offers stress relief, and connects you to nature and the food cycle. So please help me welcome Lisa.
Hello. How's everybody doing? Good. Thank you so much. Thanks to the Johnson County Master Gardeners for having me back once again. Linda especially, who's been my contact on the few times that I have spoke on programs hosted by the Johnson County Master Gardeners. So thanks again for having me. Linda, are we advancing with the arrow keys? Okay, that's cool. I can do that too. So, all right, just making sure I had my tools. So, awesome. So, thank you so much again for having me. Who's seen me speak before? I got to stay on this mic. I got to remember that. So, thank you. Thanks for coming back. It's always an honor when people return again to see me. You know, interestingly, I am in Iowa a ton this year, and I've gotten a chance to speak at a lot of new places, new home and garden shows, new Master Gardener programs. So that's been a real honor for me because oftentimes I'm on the road in a big way, so I might be in Oklahoma or Indiana or Wisconsin, or Mom and I enjoyed a lovely blizzard in Duluth last year. It's a huge home show in Duluth, home and garden show, if you haven't been there. Has anybody been to Wisconsin PBS? The big home show in Madison? You guys, the Home and Garden Show in Madison is an amazing opportunity to go check out. So one of the most unique I've seen. You can go to 35 different classes, and it's a one entry fee. Go see whatever you want. But you know what's even better? The Johnson County Master Gardeners, who host all these great free events, right? Let's give a hand to the Johnson County Master Gardeners. So I'm thankful to not be in blizzard. We experienced that, right? So I'm just from down the road in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So we got to go just a trip down I-380, which is always a pleasure, but at least it wasn't rush hour, right? So I'm so excited to be close to home once again, and out of my suitcase for a few days. So that's exciting. I also wanted to mention my mom, Linda Hinzman, is back there. First of all, how many Master Gardeners are in the room? Wow. How many not Master Gardeners are in the room? Awesome. Well, thank you for being a part of it. So as you heard, I'm a Linn County Master Gardener volunteer, and my mom, Linda, is a lifetime Master Gardener. We got lifetime Master Gardeners in the room? Surely we do. Yep, I knew it. So Linda is also a lifetime Master Gardener. So thanks, Mom, who has spent many years on the road with me, many hours, many shared hotel rooms. So let's give a hand for Linda. She absolutely hates that, so therefore I do it every dang time, okay? But seriously, she is wonderful. We call her the Midwest Garden Gal sidekick. I've wanted to get her a t-shirt. She says absolutely not. At any rate, let's get started real quick. As I mentioned, the QR code will get you this lovely recipe card. Did anybody grab their recipe card already? So stop over at the book table. You'll see the QR code again at the end, and I promise that's the end of the commercials. Wanted to mention my book because that's my COVID labor of love, right? So, you know what was not happening during COVID? Talks like this, right? All of the shows were shut down. And so I found myself having a list of stuff that I was going to put into a book someday that I had just been compiling. And during the time of COVID, I got to write this book, right? I finally got to put it all together. It's loaded with beautiful full color pages, 158 full color pages. And as I said, this is the last little commercial you'll get from me, but it is available today, $30. We take care of the tax for you. So cash, credit, as we like to say, whatever you got, we'll take it. But there are signed copies ready to go. It comes in a cute little green gift bag for you as well, because it has to be green, right? Okay, that's it. So don't forget, stop by the book table, get your free recipe card, no obligation there. And you'll get my newsletter. And so right now on the newsletter for signups, you're going to get my 5 best tips for attracting pollinators, right? We got a lot of pollinator fans in here. I already heard you guys talking in Zach's class. So I think you'll appreciate that. Brand new on the blog. I honestly haven't even talked about it yet, but it is out there right now. And you guys will get that plus some little bonus information for being a new subscriber out there. All right, let's get started. So, vegetable gardening for all seasons. How many veggie gardeners do we have? Yay, awesome. Is there anybody who's not gotten to veggie garden yet, is kind of dabbling, thinking about it? You guys. So I'm so glad to hear that you are already experienced vegetable gardeners, because this is going to help you a lot, because we're going to go further than your basic veggies. We're going to touch on the basics. I don't want to leave anybody behind, but then we're going to go a little bit further. So this is just a picture of my harvest, and it's just leaf lettuce, right? You guys recognize that. It happens to be one of the cool season crops. Does anybody have some cool season crops already planted? I realize we got a little bit like, diverted on Monday with interesting things, but guess what? The cool season veggies don't care, right? They're gonna be totally happy. So yes, this is the time. I'm gonna share some resources at the end that you can get free off my website, where you can get lots of different things that you can use, like planting guides, when to plant what you can direct sow versus what you should do transplants on. So we'll talk about all that. Okay, so here's just a quick little look at what we're going to accomplish in this class. I'm not going to read it to you, but I want you to know that we're basically going to start from the least protected, how you can maximize the current growing season, so how you can do things like succession planting, and we will talk about what each of those means. And I want to make sure that you know how to do the basics. So if you did nothing else and you did not protect your garden to be able to extend your season, which we will show you some techniques for that, this is how you can make the most out of your current growing season, okay? And then we're gonna go under the covers, right? So we're going to do a little more protection, and then we're gonna finish with like max protection, okay, to give you an idea of where we're headed. Okay, so a ton of pictures, virtually all of them are from my garden. So what you can see here is, if you can picture, my garden is just your average size residential backyard, residential lot, right? So I'm in a neighborhood. My neighbors are pretty sure I'm crazy for all of the plants and gardens and all of that I have. But luckily, my very closest next door neighbor, she's equally crazy. So we plant things like crazy. We share harvests. We share ideas. We share knowledge. And so can anybody relate in here? Like, you got a lot going on with plants at your place? But the biggest thing I want you to know is that this is something that you don't need an acreage to do. You can grow a ton of your own food. Anybody enjoying the prices at the grocery store these days? I'm going to be doing a lot of this because this is a long, skinny room, right? So forgive me, I'm trying not to ignore the left side over here, but Linda and I were talking about that. It's like, we got to, I'm trying to work both sides here. But yeah, for sure, it's crazy expensive, right? And I have to tell you, like, this time of year, it really breaks my heart because I get to the end of my peppers, peppers, fave. Tomatoes, peppers. I've saved a ton. I freeze, I can. And then I'm getting to like the end, right? Anybody out of your stuff you saved from last year? You guys have such a stockpile that you've got everything. Okay, yeah, some of you are like, yep, I'm out. It's very heartbreaking because to go pay for like $3-4 for a pepper, that it doesn't taste nearly as good as what I grew in my own garden? That's horrible, right? So growing your food is just amazing, and you guys already know that. So I want you to think about my backyard, and we're thinking about is south-facing out my back door, okay? And so on my east and west side, I have large vegetable gardens, okay? So I'm taking full advantage of that southern exposure, full sun. You guys already know you need full sun for successful vegetable gardening, right? It's really essential. So here's just another look at my garden. That's not my house in the background. That's a little shed. Because I can't just do anything halfway, right? I'm not just gonna do a little box. Well, let's put a front porch on that shed, okay? So it just so happens that I had connections at Kirkwood Community College, which you guys are well familiar with, and I had the opportunity many years ago to draw a little plan on a napkin. They came up with a real plan. I bought the materials, and some Kirkwood students built my shed for me. So I love it. I don't have those connections anymore. That shed was built, I bet we're 17, 18 years ago now. So I still use it all the time. And frankly, that front porch, think about south-facing exposure, right? It's pretty darn sunny in my backyard. It is a respite for me. And that's really what I like to point out to you. I'm going to talk about things within the vegetable gardening class that get you a little bit more thinking about, though, how can you make it a total experience, right? So beyond the shed, if you think about going off this way, there is a fire pit area. So when you put your whole plan together, think about it holistically, right? Is that how can you make it more than just a vegetable garden, right? How can you incorporate flowers? How can you do all kinds of cool things? I do a ton of vertical gardening, as you can see there. So anytime you can grow things up, I'm also really getting into anybody doing hog panels or cattle panels in their garden. Yeah. So this class doesn't get into that because you could do an entire class on that alone. But the basic principle is that you can put those in your garden, you can trellis things, right? They're super, super sturdy. They are galvanized metal. They will last a very, very long time. In fact, mine have been in for years now, and they are not rusting at all. Anybody that's put up a cattle panel or a hog panel, I like to join raised beds, right? So I always recommend have 4 feet between your raised beds. But when you do that, and I use hog panels 4 feet on my ends, and it's going to make a perfect arch between your raised beds, right? It's a great way to gain some extra space. There's all kinds of vegetables that climb that you can do. So you can check out that and just simply go out to YouTube and look up hog panel gardening or cattle panel gardening, and you will find a plethora of ideas for that. Okay, so this is actually a picture from my book. This is my native garden in the background. So just a back corner of my garden. So as you can see, you can stick little ideas and different strategies everywhere. But I did want to share, we're going to go into the traditional growing season, and this is a cheap trick from my book. What is that, you guys, that we're looking at? Yes, who said it? Gentleman over there, shower caddy, you got that right. So I'm using it to hold my tools, right? Have you guys ever had, maybe some of those fine clippers, pruners that you left in the garden? This is the point where everyone's like, yeah, I've been there, right? How's that looking when it's a few weeks later and you find it in the mud? Rusty, nasty. I mean, these are 50, 60 and up. Pruners, right? Or any of your tools, really. Shower caddy is my solution. Okay, and get a good one. The dollar store shower caddies, no offense to the dollar store, there's a lot of cool things you can get at the dollar store for gardening, but they're too small, right? In my history, I've not found a good one. So get yourself a good one. They're certainly available on Amazon. You can get them anytime. And when you're talking like back to school season, Target, Walmart, you will find good quality shower caddies that you can use. But load it up with whatever you got, so you can hold your cell phone, your water, your gloves, your clippers, whatever you need in the garden. So that's just one little cheap trick that I love to share. Okay, so case for raised. You guys are experienced gardeners. We're not going to get too deep on this. Oh, by the way, take any and all pictures you want, please. Any of the information, please do capture. I'd be happy to have you take those pics. So we're not going to get deep on the case for raised. How many are raised bed gardening now? How many are doing traditional in-ground gardening? And that's perfectly okay too. How many are doing like me, both, right? I do containers, I do in-ground, I do raised beds. So yes, it can work all of the ways. I do love raised beds for a lot of reasons. It's a lot easier to amend your soil. And frankly, I stay cleaner because I do raised beds, right? So I can go out and work in the garden for a couple hours. If I'm in-ground gardening, I'll probably come in and I'm just like a total mess, right? Whereas raised beds, you're working outside of the beds, right? The goal is not to step into the beds. So we'll check that out. And one thing I like to keep, I've long thought about, does this picture stay? And it does, because there's some critical problems with my picture of my raised beds in front. So you guys are active vegetable gardeners. You guys are already gardening for veggies. What are my problems on that picture? Well, for one, it's too darn big, okay? It's really hard to see on this picture, but it's too big. So it is like 8 foot by 6 foot. That is way too big. Why? Yeah, you have to step into it. I see all you guys doing this, right? You can't possibly reach the center unless I'm going to date myself, like Go-Go Gadget Arms, you know the cartoon? I know, I'm so sorry. But I don't have that. That would be so handy, but I don't. And so the bottom line is you don't want to step into it. The other thing I'll say is, in my opinion, I'd like it to be a little deeper, right? So those boards, this was created back when I was pretty new on raised bed gardening. And the bottom line is I'd like it to be maybe like a 10-inch board. Those were made with like 6-inch boards. I was following the directions. You see it online all over the place. Now the older I get, these are looking pretty good, right? Anybody got the raised beds that are nice and tall? You don't even have to bend over. Those are sounding really better to me these days. So the older I get, the more I think that's a cool idea. Certainly you can do that. But I want to make sure that your boards are at least 10-inch, right? And then the other thing I want to say is that think about 4 by 6 is probably the most common size for a raised bed. I really love the 3 foot by whatever. You could go as long a board as you want. It's going to get more expensive, but it's also going to get awkward to get around it, right? So if you got that 10 foot, 12 foot board, expensive, but also you've got to like get around that whole thing. But the point is, if you do like 3 foot ends on your skinny ends, then you can always reach, right? No matter where you're at, you're going to be able to get from those two sides, and then that means you get to everything, right? Because you kept it to be a skinny bed. It also doesn't have to be, a rectangle. You can make a circle, you can make an octagon. I do have some triangle raised beds, only because I had a gate that I had to get narrower, right? But I'm like, hey, this looks like space for another raised bed. So don't feel like you're boxed in. I mean, I had to wait a minute, but I know this is the second talk of the day. So at any rate, yes, raised beds, you guys know the deal. Drainage is the big important thing, right? Because every plant wants to have great drainage, right? So whether you're in container gardening, you're doing your house plants inside, you're doing your gardening outside, must have drainage, right? It's very key. Okay, the other thing is, I'm glad people are taking pictures, so feel free to continue to do that. I want to make sure you know that today's pressure-treated lumber is completely safe to use. Now, if you're pulling boards out of, oh, by the way, please hold all questions to the end. We got the mic thing we got to work on, and it just goes better that way, right? So if you think of a question, jot it down, put it in your phone, whatever, and we will make sure we have time for questions at the end. Okay, today's pressure-treated lumber is totally safe to use. They are no longer allowed to use the chemicals that were dangerous. So point being, if you've got Aunt Edna's farmhouse and she has a chicken coop loaded with boards that are pressure-treated from 40 years ago, you probably don't want to use that for food production, okay? But if you're buying them at Menards or wherever you're getting your wood these days, you can 100% do pressure-treated. They last and last, right? That's the advantage. If you use traditional lumber that is not made for being outside, you might get a couple years. I got raised beds that are 15 plus years old and still going strong, and they are all made with pressure-treated lumber. You could do expensive wood like cedar. Cedar's not terrible, but I do consults, by the way, and I certainly come to Iowa City for consults. Has anyone been a consult client of mine? Nobody in this room, but at any rate, consults are open for spring booking. You can check that out on my website. But I do have to tell you, the very best one I ever saw, their raised beds were made of teak. You guys price teak? I mean, I haven't because I already know I can't afford that, right? So at any rate, your garden, your way is an anthem that I say frequently, but yeah, teak is super dependable, weather durable, so is cedar, of course. Cedar would be a nice mid-range because if you're getting to teak, well, that's out of my budget. But just to point out, I have seen teak raised beds. Okay, did I skip over stuff? Hold on. Let me back up. Okay, I do want to make sure that you avoid railroad ties. You guys remember like the 70s? Some of you in this room are like, no, because I wasn't born yet. But, you know, railroad ties were like the thing, right? All the places where we have bike trails today, these were railroads that were, they'd take them out, they'd leave a big pile of railroad ties, and you could make your beds with them, right? Okay, so if you currently have flowers that you're growing in railroad tie beds, you're not going to eat those. But I personally would not plant food in beds that are made with railroad ties, okay? This has chemicals, creosote, that is leaching into your food. And believe me, those roots can take up those chemicals into your food, okay? So it's just not a wise idea. So avoid the railroad ties. I would also avoid tires, just that rubber, chemicals, all of that. They're great if you have some tires and you love your flower garden and tires, okay, well, you're not eating that, okay? So definitely consider that. But the other things that are great, concrete blocks work exceptionally well, straw bales, anything that holds soil and drains freely can be a bed. Straw bales I haven't really gotten into, but people do. Is anyone doing straw bale gardening? Yeah, I mean, it's very effective. So certainly there's tons of information online. If you haven't realized yet, YouTube is like your friend for many, many solutions on things, and they certainly have straw bale gardening out there. Okay, here is my favorite recipe. This is also in the book for sure, and feel free to take a picture. And this is a recipe for soil, okay? That's what we're talking about here. So you really need to think about lightening your compost, right? So I see lots of people that are like, I don't know, I thought I could just grow all in compost. You need the drainage. You need to lighten that soil, right? And so, yes, you can grow in compost. It's a little rich, and it's certainly going to get very dense and tough, right? You need everything to be light and fluffy, particularly in your raised beds. So you can do the same thing with your in-ground gardens, though, and add some compost, add some peat, add some vermiculite. Big thing to know about vermiculite and perlite can be used pretty interchangeably. They are not going to decompose, okay? Certainly your peat and your compost will decompose. Vermiculite and perlite will not, okay? So just think about that when I call it topping off your beds, because you certainly don't need to remove all of the soil every year, unless you had a major problem, right? If you had some serious disease, you had this whole situation, you may want to take out all of the soil out of your raised beds and start over again is the best thing. And especially if you can leave that bed empty and get a lot of sun. Sun is a great natural sanitizer, right? So just let it be empty, let it do its thing. Sometimes people cover it with black plastic and let it cook a little better, but there's no need to replace your soil generally. It will come down, right? You guys are raised bed gardeners. You know, you're losing a few inches every year in your raised bed. Well, it's because it's decomposing, right? And think about all those plants you're pulling out. They're always, you know, I try to shake off the soil, but you know how that is. There's some soil clinging to it. And so you're certainly going to need to top off your beds every year. Free compost at your municipal sites is a great thing to take advantage of, but also you can get great compost from your nurseries. In my experience, Cedar Rapids being an example, is anybody from Cedar Rapids besides us that's here today? Are we all Johnson County folk? All right. Huh? Wonderful, Washington, great. So the point is that these municipalities that are managing compost, they're very well managed. And generally they will have information on their website. They have scientific reports about how they are, how hot they are, what's the chemical makeup as far as they take soil tests on them. So in my opinion, I wouldn't hesitate to use those resources. I know the Linn County one anybody walk Mount Trashmore? You guys are pretty close to us, right? Come walk Mount Trashmore if you haven't. It's really cool. But at any rate, when you go down the backside of Mount Trashmore, you can see down into the where they are making compost. Huge piles that they're working with backhoes and all of that. These piles are steaming, right? I don't know about you, but I recommend having a compost pile in your backyard. I certainly do. And I can't get as hot as that, right? There's impossible. I don't have backhoes. I don't have that kind of amount of stuff that's cooking away. So you can certainly check that out and definitely use it. Compost, totally natural fertilizer. It's really hard to burn anything when you're using compost, right? So don't hesitate. Use a lot of it. You won't be disappointed. Okay, so let's talk about succession planting. Who knows what the heck I'm talking about succession planting? Okay, a few, yeah. Who's like, I don't know what that means? Okay, most of you know, and so see, we got a room full of master gardeners, right? So I know we got folks watching as well, so just to make sure everybody knows, succession planting means instead of planting a whole row of something, and I'll give you an example, I'm gonna plant little by little. So we're gonna take the lowly radish as an example, okay? By the way, if you guys have not grown French breakfast radish, or there's various names, there's French dressing, French breakfast. Is anybody new to French breakfast radishes? Yeah, a few of you. That is one to remember. And honestly, you'll see a picture here in a little while of French breakfast from my garden, and it's an amazing radish. So long, big, mild, delicious. So, but anyway, let's use the lowly radish, okay? So days to maturity on the radish, about 22 days. I mean, it depends on the variety, but 20 to 22, 24 days, right in there. If you're like me, you'll be like 26 days and you're like, oh no, still okay. But at any rate, so when we're talking about succession planting, I want you to think about, you are going to, instead of planting the entire row or the whole amount of radishes you wanted to plant in the spring, you are going to plant just a little bit of them, right? And then like a week later, you're going to plant a little bit more. And a week later, and don't sweat it. A week or two, whenever you get around to it, plant a little bit more radish. Because what happens if you plant all the radishes at the same time?
Harvest all at the same time.
I mean, yes, you're harvesting all at the same time. And I'm sorry, I love radish, but seriously. By the way, if you have not roasted radish, it's fantastic, super easy, and it's just phenomenal. So give that a try. But yes, so we can only take so much radish, right? And we're just like, oh no, what am I do now? So what I want you to do is do succession planting, and that's really a way to extend your season. The other big thing you're gonna do is you can come back if it's cold season crops, and you're gonna see some crops that I recommend and how to use those. What I suggest you do is that you come back in summertime, later summer, and you plant again. Is anybody doing that? For a really long time, I didn't even think about it, right? Because by the time it was summer, it was all hot, end of the season, I'm just like, ugh, it's hot, horrible. But actually, this is the perfect time to replant cold season crops. So we're talking, late July, August, and I'll give you some resources at the end, but on my website, you can get a downloadable guide that'll tell you when you can do what, and it tells you this is the time to start it again. And guess what, you guys? It's for Zone 5. Yes, state of Iowa, right? So you can definitely check that out. Free to download. I try to make a lot of my resources free. It's going to tell you what to do when. So if you are not replanting your cold season crops again in late summer, please do so. It is definitely to your advantage to do it and get a lot more food. Okay, who here likes kale? You guys, I know I'm with Master Gardeners because so many more hands go out. So picture these big home shows, right? These are 70,000 attendee shows, or up to 100,000 shows or attendees over 4 days. And you know how many people raise their hands about kale? They're like, they'll be like that person that doesn't want to admit they like kale, but we are Master Gardeners. We understand the value of kale, okay? So I want you to know that every picture, these are all from my garden, and every one of those pictures is the same kale, same variety of kale. They look very different, right? Well, it's the time of the year that the kale is being harvested. So obviously, On your left, making sure I'm doing this right, on your left is summertime kale, right? And that's salvia in the background, which is a wonderful pollinator plant. Annuals or perennials, I recommend have it all. And then up in the upper right corner, I want you to see that. That's key. This is how you get 8 months of kale, okay? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, see in the center? It's called the terminal bud. That is unique to all kale plants. It is the life of the kale plant. Every baby leaf, see in the middle how they're little baby leaves? I love how I'm pointing at this screen like you can see what I'm pointing at. See, the little baby leaves, right? Much smaller. Even the color's different, right? As they mature, it turns to more of a bluey. This happens to be a variety called Blue Vades. It goes by various names, but V as in Victor, A-T-E-S. Blue Vades is one I love to grow, and it's a curly leaf variety. There's a flat leaf varieties that are probably better if you're doing kale chips. My book has a wonderful recipe called That Good Kale Salad, because that's what it is. So that's the best name I got. But at any rate, the kale salad recipe is so easy, wonderful. But terminal bud, okay, so what I want you to know is you need to harvest from the outside in, bottom up. I'm gonna let you guys think about that for a minute. That is how you have kale, not only for 8 months, but has anybody had their kale, like you leave it in the garden, it comes back unprotected? Yeah, heck yeah, right? So not only 8 months, I say 8 months because I'm like, okay, it kind of gets upset when it gets snowed on, it'll just kind of diminish, but it can come raging back the next year if you do not remove it. So kale is really one of the only vegetable plants that I'm like, leave it, because it will likely come back for you unprotected, okay? Whereas I do recommend clearing your vegetable garden to prevent disease. I do that in the fall. Obviously, I'm a fan of pollinators. I leave all the rest, right? But the vegetable gardens do need to get cleared. Leave your kale, right? My kale's looking pretty sad right now, but it's gonna start putting on new growth, believe it or not, right? So make sure you do that. But outside in, bottom up. Okay, that's how you harvest. Always leaving the terminal bud. So see the little picture? I like to call it the Dr. Seuss tree. The heavily harvested kale plant. That's what you're looking at there, right? So see the plant with, it's got the little sprouts, right? That's terminal bud, still living. Okay, that's a heavily harvested November kale plant. Okay, this one on the bottom right, that was a batch of kale that I picked on Thanksgiving Day. Then I brought it in and made my good kale salad and brought it to Thanksgiving dinner, okay? So yes, you can do it. You can keep it going, because don't do like I did when I first started with kale. I harvest the whole dang plant because it looked ready and pretty, right? So whack it off, right? Done in like spring, before we even really get into summer. So terminal bud, that's how you get your kale for an extended period. Okay, I think we should go beyond, right? Who wants to go beyond the frost and the freeze and really continue to vegetable gardening? Anybody covering right now? Are you doing various things to extend your season, either starting earlier or going later? A few of you. Okay, I'm gonna give you some good ideas. You're gonna have lots of stuff that I recommend. Take some pictures and check it out for sure. Okay. All right, so these are the tough veggies for cold season growing. There's gonna be a lot of good photo opportunities here. And then I'm going to give you some online resources too. So don't worry about if you're like, I don't really want to take pictures, I want to listen. That's cool too. Okay, obviously we're not going to go through this list, but these are the rock stars that can withstand temps below 28 degrees unprotected. Heck yeah, right? These are cold season crops, okay? So I mean doing nothing at all, okay? You're just leaving them out there. These will continue to grow for you even at 28 degrees unprotected. You guys remember I mentioned French breakfast radish? That's my hand holding French breakfast radish that I plucked out of my garden, okay? It's fantastic. Look at the size of those radish, and they're so mild and lovely. So it's my fave. I think it's Mom's fave. I've tried a lot of radish, and like the cherry bell and stuff, like forget that. You can grow this. It's really a winner for sure, okay? So hopefully folks got their pictures that wanted it. Okay, row covers. Anybody using row covers in their garden? How about anybody have a collection of bed sheets? They might even be your grandma's bed sheets. Of course we do, right? Those are great for covering up your flower pots or whatever, because sometimes we'll go it's Iowa, right? We'll go into that deep freeze, and then we'll bounce right back out of it. So yes, but I'm talking the bed sheets are giving you a few degrees, right? So for your tender annuals and your tender veggies, they could get you a little, not very much, right? But the cold season crops, you just saw that big list of ones that could take to 28 degrees, unharmed, unprotected. Row covers just give you a little bit more protection. Very similar to the bed sheet, except better, right? Because sun can come through, moisture can come through. I call it the first line of defense, okay? So you can definitely do that, but it's not gonna get you very far, okay? It gives you a little bit. The other big thing with row covers that I've been experimenting with is Brassica family, you guys know. Shout out some Brassica veggies. Yep. See, when I'm talking to master gardeners, I knew I could ask you guys, right? Brassica families. And so making sure that we hear it on the televised version, we're talking about broccoli, cauliflower. They say kale is a Brassica. I don't usually have quite a few problems with bugs relative to kale. But yes, Brussels sprouts are a Brassica family. You can row cover the entire growing season, because what happens with Brassica family crops on the regular? You guys familiar with that lovely, cute little white butterfly? Yes, what's the name of it? Cabbage white moth or cabbage butterfly. Yes, so you'll see those used interchangeably. They're flitting around looking so cute and dainty. They are laying eggs on your Brassica family plants. That's why it's called the cabbage moth or cabbage butterfly. So you can row cover for the whole year. You can water through it. You can keep it covered, and it works great, right? And so later on with the moth, you get to the point when you're like late summer, that moth's life cycle is pretty well done. But I've seen people leave them covered the entire season. They do fantastic, no trouble with the moths. So point being, we're using it for a little protection in this class, but it's great for bug protection as well. Okay, we're gonna go just a little bit further. Cold frames. So hoop house, cold frames. We'll talk about greenhouses here a little bit. These are all the vegetables that I recommend that you can grow in these environments. And you get a plan that will be a great diagram for you to take a picture of about how to make your raised beds into a fully functional hoop house, okay? So these are ones that are gonna do well. Here's the big thing. If you're going to go undercover, I want you to replant in that whole late July, August time frame, because if you're like, well, heck, I think I'll do growing under the covers like Lisa taught us, and well, it's like September, I'm gonna just clear this bed and start some seeds and some plants I grew. How successful do you think that will be? You need to get your plants going earlier, right? They need to get roots established. They need to get growing. You can even be harvesting still. But typically with these cold season crops, you've grown them in the early spring. You can also start sooner. I have to say, looking at the long-term forecast, I think you're good on your cold season crops to get going unprotected, but you could be able to start earlier in the season, but you can go later in the season, right? So yes, you can keep your stuff going that was growing, but you can also replant in summer to have some nice fresh veg, and then by the time your first frosts are coming, you're gonna cover them up, and you will have lovely harvests for many more months to come, okay? And we're gonna talk about that. How would you guys like to grow that bowl of lettuce and radish and that lovely bowl of greens and harvest that in, say, February and bring it in and serve it to your family for dinner? Awesome, right? You can do it. Now, one thing I do wanna say, we're gonna talk about the hoop house here in a second. I'm not saying you will always make it for the entire season, right? All the way through year round, okay? Because we have to be real, right? The hoop house that we're going to demonstrate is unheated except for sun's magnificence, okay? So we'll talk about that as well. Cold frames, anybody got a cold frame? My mom does. A few of you do. I wish I did. I don't have a cold frame. I've long thought about it. If you're doing a cold frame, there's tons of plans online. I recommend you sink it into the ground quite a few inches because you're getting the natural geothermal heat, right? So much more protected. Sink it into the ground, but cold frames is certainly an option. So now we're going to go into my garden again and do hoop houses. So this is protecting your raised beds so that you can grow further, longer, and yes, you will find my total plan coming up here in just a second about how to do this. There's also a corresponding blog post on my website. Don't go there now. I'm not the police of your phone, but I will make sure that you have those resources at the end as well. Okay, so you're covering it up with 6 mil greenhouse plastic. Again, I'm going to show you the total supply list here in just a second. But 6 mil is widely considered the greenhouse grade plastic, right? So it's strong enough to be durable, to stay warm, and to be able to allow enough sun in as well. So you can be too thick, you can be too thin, right? But 6 mil MIL, you're gonna see that in a moment on this diagram. But here's some more shots in my garden. You guys remember I said I had a couple triangle raised beds? You can hoop house a triangle bed. Why not? You know, anything that you want, you can hoop house. And then I like the shot on the right because I'm looking at what it's looking like in the summertime, right? So you can see I've got lots of kale because I love my kale, but you can have various other cold season crops going there. So my kale is continuing to provide for me all throughout the year. You can certainly plant some new kale, get that going in late summer as well. But I like the look of the hoops, right? And frankly, these are like zip tied together. We're gonna go right to the diagram next. This is a great one to get a picture of. You can also find it on my website, and I'll make sure you know where to get that. But you can leave those PVC pipes out all year. Okay, so I think it looks cute, right? Because these are zip tied together. The little ones on the end we'll talk about here in a second, but the rest of the hoops in my garden just stay out. If I do remove them for whatever reason, I'm redoing something and I take them out, I store them in the rafters in my shed, you know, but they're kind of cumbersome because they're long and all of that. And I think they look great and they last for years and years outside, no problem. So I think they look pretty, so that's what I do. Okay, everybody got their picture that they wanted? Okay, I want to talk about a couple of things. Again, we talked about the 6 mil plastic sheeting. This design is for a 4x6 raised bed, the most common raised bed there is, but you can make it adjust to suit your needs, okay? I personally have never had a PVC cutter. I'm not that fancy, so maybe you guys do, but I just use a regular saw, cut them off, not any problem. Make sure everything, your screws, your brackets are all galvanized, because otherwise you'll have rust running down your raised beds, and none of us want that lovely look, okay? And you can see the rest of the plan there, but I do want to explain this little short guy. So see the PVC that doesn't go all the way to the top? People are like, what in the heck is that all about? It's purely there so that I can use clamps on the remember the plastic sheeting that goes all the way up and over and we're buttoning this whole thing up? You have to keep it secure and you need to keep it buttoned up when it's below freezing. Yes, your cold season crops can shake off a little, but you don't want them taxed because you're trying to get them as far as you can, right? So when it's freezing out, I'm keeping it buttoned up, right? So I'm clamping to it, that's it. And the reason I don't have that PVC go all the way to the top is because it's a real bugger to get in there to harvest, water, all of that, if you can't take those little poles out and take care of it that way. Also, it just looks cuter, you know, it makes it more accessible to leave them up all in the summertime as well, okay? One thing I want you to know too is that there is thermometers in there. We're gonna back up just a quick minute. There's thermometers inside these hoop houses, okay? I used to do like the manual thermometers, and then I'd have to go out. Think about Monday, right? And you go out there and you look through the 6 mil plastic, and sometimes there'll be a little condensation in there, and you can't see anything. It's horrible. You had to go out there. But on my blog post, I recommend the best thermometers I've found. I think it was like, I don't know, under $30 or something instead of $3, and you can read them from inside the house. So awesome. So I have a little command center sitting in my kitchen, and I can monitor my raised beds. And then I even give you, it took me forever to figure out what is the thing that will hold them like in the middle of the raised bed. You don't want your thermometer to be at the top or the bottom. You kind of want where the plant action's happening, right? And anybody have like the little flags like for Easter and Mother's Day, the little square things that go on the little side post? It's that side post thing is what I found that fits, just happens to fit these thermometers and keeps them at the right height. So anyway, that was trial and error. I share it with you guys. You can completely go find your own or go do your own thing, but it took me forever to find the right ones. So at any rate, just an FYI, you'll find that in the blog post as well. Okay, back to this guy. So that makes sense, the little side PVC, the shorty guy. People are gonna be like, you made a mistake. No, it's on purpose, okay? So it's purely clamped to it. You're gonna wanna pull it back when it's nice out, right? Okay, so you're 50 degrees and it's lovely out, and you're gonna want to pull that up, right? Even if it's like in the 40s. Anytime you can, if you have calm in 40s, open that house up, because you are talking about cold season crops. They do not wanna get hot. You're gonna manage that temperature to 80 degrees max, but I am telling you, your cold season crops hate that. They really just like being 80 degrees, and they can certainly get there. When you're talking about, you know how it is with our roller coaster ride of Iowa, maybe there's been an example like this week, but that happens all the time to us, right? And let me tell you, if you're in the 50s, that house will easily rise above 80 degrees and fast, okay? So keep an eye on your thermometers. Make sure you're doing that. Open it up. And people are like, what do you mean open it up? I usually open mine on the skinny ends, okay? So you know where those little half PVCs were? Taking that out, open it up, clamp. I'm using the same clamps that are holding my 6 mil plastic on. I'm just clipping it back onto the hoops that are above, right? So just clip it back. I always have extra, by the way. I have extra 6 mil plastic. They have a patch kit that I give you a link to as well, because let me tell you, if you get a hole in your 6 mil plastic and it is February and it's 16 degrees outside, you're gonna be done. But if I do get a hole, and it does happen, I'll throw a whole nother level of plastic over the top of the other one, because I'm not hanging out there at 15 degrees, right? So throw another one over. You need helpers, trust me, especially because it's usually windy and crummy if this is the conditions we're dealing with. Get it over the top, put another one in, and it'll get you through that time period, okay? All right, so we're not going to get heavily into it, except to refer you that I'm going to show you the blog post, okay? One thing I do want to mention, you see that compass, the compass rose down in the lower right corner? I'm only mentioning this because we talked about being in full sun, but some of us have fences, right? Some of us have like a small yard. The only place we have sun, we have great sun. So think about north facing, right? So your shade's gonna cast to the neighbor's yard, right? So you're pretty well in full sun there, right? So you can handle that. The other big thing I like to point out with this is I want you to center your raised beds so that that your long end is on an east-west exposure. East-west, west-east, doesn't matter, you know how it is, but you're trying to maximize the sun, right? So yes, you want south face, you want to be a southern exposure because you want max sun, but you're wanting to let that sun come up and over. So think rises in the east, right? Comes over, sets in the west. This is how you get the maximum amount of sun. Make sure you're in full sun, you're not getting shaded, and this is how you're going to get the max sun, because winter time in Iowa, we need to take advantage of as much sun as we can possibly get our hands on, okay? So that's what we're talking about. That's why I like to put that little compass down in the corner to show what we're talking about. Don't overthink it. Whatever, be in full sun. If you're in complete full sun, you're good to go, but I do like that long orientation for that east-west to make sure you're getting the maximum amount of sun. That make sense? All right. We're almost done here, but I want to show a couple of other things. Remember we talked about cattle panels? Wow, this is not my garden. So these folks are growing an insane amount of vegetables during the summer, and then they're covering it in the winter and making it into a little greenhouse. So that can definitely be done. That's a lot more elaborate than I get. Frankly, I use the hog panels because my 4x6 raised beds, that's what fits perfect. The skinny end of the raised bed, like I said, that will fit a hog panel in it perfectly. These are about 17 feet long, the hog panels. Not sure, cattle panels are bigger and much wider. Okay, so you need friends, you need pickup trucks, and believe me, those of you that have done hoop houses, how much torque is on that cattle panel or hog panel when you try to bend it? You need friends, okay? So you absolutely can come up and over. I set mine into my raised beds with T-posts that are in the beds, right? They're wired to it. And once it's set and gets itself settled, you're golden forever. Like, I mean, for years and years and years and years. I don't know what the lifespan is, but I'm 20 years at my current house, and things are going strong. I've been cattle panel, hog paneling for, I don't know, more than 10 years, okay? Here's just another couple of examples. This is going a little bit further. Not my garden. I'd like to have a door and cool stuff like that, but here's the caution I give you about those. You see them tons. There's tons of information online about them. Here's the deal. When you are in Iowa, you're trying to do this, that door puts your roof way higher, right? So the top of your hoop house is much higher. Where do you think all the heat's going? To the top of your little greenhouse, right? So you can actually be doing this to your detriment, right? I much prefer if you have more of the lower tunnels like that diagram shows, because then you are not putting all your heat up in the top of your, it can only go so far, right? So if that makes sense, it's keeping the heat where it belongs down lower, okay? So that's my only caution about that, but your garden, your way, feel free to explore. Okay, then lastly, this is the dream, right? Anybody got greenhouses? There's not a single person in this room has their own greenhouse?
I have an overwintering greenhouse.
Do you? Nice, nice. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a greenhouse. Someday, that'd be awesome. But yes, so there's the dream, right? Especially this one on the left, like solar panels, raised beds, greenhouses. What a phenomenal opportunity. So, the sky's the limit. You can keep going. I mean, certainly once you're in a greenhouse situation, you can be doing supplemental heating and some other solutions as well. Okay, so I told you guys where I want you to check it out when you get time, when you get home, and certainly if you sign up for my emails, you're going to see all throughout the season I share seasonal stuff and ideas. These are the kind of things I'm sharing. The blog, there is a blog out there, Growing Under the Covers, that will teach you all of the things that we talked about in this class. I have to give a shout out. Do we have any Wild Ones members in the audience? Yeah, couple, yep. Wild Ones is awesome. It has nothing, it kind of does, but vegetable gardening isn't, they're talking about natives and pollinators, and that's really the focus of the Wild Ones mission. I love Wild Ones. I've been a member for the last few years, so I keep Wild Ones in all of my talks because I just think it's such a beneficial group, and I know from listening to you guys in Zach's class that you really enjoy that whole pollinator experience. Wild Ones is a great way to get started. There is a Cedar Rapids, Iowa City chapter. You a member of that one? Or a different one, but yes. So I'm in the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. Mom's, what are you, the treasurer, Mom? So she's the money lady for Cedar Rapids, Iowa City chapter. But at any rate, wildones.org, it will give you direct to your local chapter as well. I think it's like $40. I think it's $40 for the whole year. So Wild Ones is a fantastic group to think about getting involved with. Everybody get what they wanted. I saw some cameras up. Okay, and then lastly, please connect with me. I got a bunch of information on social. I've been talking about this class before I was here, and I did a little shout out to Zach during his class. But definitely, connect with me. Don't forget the book. We got to think about Easter, Mother's Day. Makes a great gift for yourself. And it comes with a fantastic little green gift bag. So I've done all that work for you. There are signed copies already available, so you don't have to wait for me. Mom's ready for you. And don't forget, if you signed up for emails, please stop by so that you can get your free recipe card. We'd love to give that to you. I think we have time for questions.
We do. Thank you so much. Let's give Lisa a quick hand, too. We do have a couple minutes for questions. Please come up to the mic to ask the question. And note that you do have evaluations on the table. We love it when you fill out the evaluations, so please do so.
Yes, sir.
One of your slides, you had a couple large galvanized tubs full of wood chips. Can you tell me what that's about?
Yeah. So, yes, in one of my slides, those are actually vintage, right? So a great big part of my teaching, and there's a whole chapter called Found Things in the book, that actually came from my grandfather, and he salvaged them. They were antique dealers, so I got tons of my galvanized metal stuff from him. But we use all kinds of things in the garden like that. And it's I honestly don't know what it is, but it has some drains on it. It's not like a wash tub so much, but I just grow stuff in it. So I do tomatoes, peppers, anything you want that you can do. But I am a big fan of vintage galvanized. So Found Things is something I'm passionate about. I'm sitting on a blog post for Found Things, but you can certainly find more in the book. But did I answer your question, sir? It was just a vintage thing that I grow stuff in. Yeah, so you saw mulch on it because I mulch my pots. I enjoy doing that. My mom doesn't usually mulch her pots, so it's personal choice. I like to keep the moisture in, do all of that, but you can certainly not mulch them and be fine, but that's what you were seeing there. Great question, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a couple of years ago, I grew Brussels sprouts and got these teeny tiny little ones like this. And then in the fall, I can go to Trader Joe's and get these stalks of Brussels sprouts that they're huge. Give me some Brussels sprouts.
Yes, for sure. Here's the thing about Brussels sprouts, they take forever, right? You guys that grow Brussels sprouts realize you want to start them as early in the spring as you possibly can, like now. Anybody got Brussels sprouts already going? Yeah. Or from transplants or seed or... Yeah, so they actually do grow quite easily from seed, but it takes forever. So you might want to stay at the mic because I'm going to ask you some stuff, if that's all right. We'll diagnose this Brussels sprout issue. Did you have like a max amount of time, or did you start them a little bit later?
I probably started them a little bit later.
Yeah, because honestly, they will be going, I am, and believe me, when you harvest your Brussels sprouts and they're at maturity, you're going to need like a saw. Right, Tig? You guys are nodding your heads. You will need a saw to get them cut off, but then you will have all the little Brussels up and down the stalk. So and you were in full sun?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I would believe that maybe you needed a little bit longer time.
So start them now and...
Right now, as soon as you possibly can.
And should I put row covers on them because you talked about the insects?
You could try it.
Okay.
I mean, you do have a risk with Brussels sprouts about getting the worms, and that's coming from that cabbage moth.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your question. Maybe, do we have one last question? One more question. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I think full sun is wonderful, and I have a city plot for that. But my garden is no longer full sun, and so I have this plot that I would like to be growing things in. And I do things like green beans and early girl tomatoes and things that don't take as long. But what I'm looking for is what can I plant in that garden that is not full sun? It's about 4 hours.
Yes. The majority of vegetables want that full sun. And when we say full sun, I always clarify that you guys know this, being primarily Master Gardeners, 6 to 8 hours of sun is what we're talking about. We're not talking about the moment the sun comes up to the moment the sun comes down, but good 6 to 8 hours. But things that you can think about that would grow very well for you in like a lesser amount of sun is like in the heat of the summer, leaf lettuce is pretty darn quick to germinate. And because you have that extra shade, I think you'd be successful. Try leaf lettuce, try some of those fast-growing vegetables, and I think you could. Now, I would say like tomatoes, peppers, I don't feel like you're gonna be successful, but you're doing exactly right. The early girl tomatoes, the ones that are quicker to harvest, these are ones to give a try to. But a lot of the things that we plant from seed, and even like cucumbers, like some relief from the super hot late day sun. They love sun, no doubt about it, but maybe try some leaf lettuce, give a try to that because they're gonna appreciate that shade that they're gonna get during the hottest part of the day. All right.
Kale does great.
I'm sorry?
The kale does great.
Yes, kale. So kale's another great example is like a number of them, if you think about the cool season veggies, don't love to be baked. So they need that full sun. They need sun. But give an experiment because I always say it's just a grand experiment, right? Thank you guys. I know I need to get off for the next speaker, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa.